I'm Yolanda McKinney, and this is Table Talk Tuesday. And today I have my mother with me, Gloria Quarles, to discuss her personal journey with breast cancer. You had breast cancer, and how did you find out about it?
I found out last February. I went for my yearly mammogram, something that I kind of been putting off, but I knew I had to get it done. So I made me an appointment, and I went and took my mammogram. Mm-hmm. And usually I go get my mammogram. In about 10 days, I get a letter saying, everything's fine. So I was expecting to hear that this time. Mm-hmm. But this time instead, the next day after I went and got it done, I got a call saying that I needed to come back for further testing. Well, that threw me. Mm-hmm. I didn't want that call. I wasn't expecting that call, but I also thought, well, it's just for further testing. It doesn't have to mean anything. Mm-hmm. So I went that same week and had to do it over, further testing, and then I had to wait for a while before I could find out the results and talk to my doctor. Mm-hmm. And so a little after that, I did have an appointment with my medical doctor, and she told me that I was going to have to see a surgeon and have a biopsy. Mm-hmm. That they saw something there that wasn't there before. And so, what was the other part of the question? I forgot.
Well, you pretty much answered it. I wanted to know, when did you find out and how did you find out? So you went for your initial visit, and which is a yearly checkup that people normally do. And then after you went for your yearly checkup, you went, you got a phone call and you had to go for more testing.
Right.
Okay, so what happened in the next round of testing?
Well, I had to go see a surgeon. And when I went to him, the first thing he said to me was, we weren't going to worry about anything. A lot of times women have to, have a biopsy. And a lot of times it's nothing. So we're not going to worry until we know we got something to worry about. I mean, even though he said that to me, still deep down I'm worried. I mean, how can I not worry? And so I had my biopsy. And we were kind of moving along pretty fast with everything, but still the waiting was hard. And so I get my biopsy, I go back to see my surgeon to get the results. And even though I tried to prepare myself, I still wasn't prepared.
Yeah.
Because the first thing I remember him saying to me was, we didn't get the results that we were hoping for. And that's pretty much all I heard. Just bits and pieces of other things he said. You were with me. And I was glad, because that way you caught a lot of what he was saying. Only thing I could think was, this man just told me I had breast cancer. And, and I'm sitting there thinking, I can't have breast cancer. This can't be happening. And so I didn't hear anything much he was saying. And you had to tell me later what all was said, and but it was very hard to hear that.
And emotional.
Oh yeah,
very emotional.
Very emotional.
Okay, but once you kind of went on through your process, you received some news, a couple of different things. One, they found out that you tested positive for the HER2 gene mutation, and that would mean that your cancer would be more aggressive, and that was just a gene that you carried. And so what happened after that? Once you found out that your biopsy came back positive and that you also had this gene mutation, what were your options at that point?
Well, when I had my biopsy, I didn't really know about the HER2 until we removed the lump.
Okay.
But that's one thing. My doctor, he felt like it was real small, that we caught it very early, and that everything would be fine. And even though he told me that, I still couldn't shake it. Thinking the worst, feeling like the worst was going to happen. But after I had my surgery, and they test the lump, what we decided to do for me, since mine was caught early and it was a really small lump, I decided to just remove it And so I didn't have to lose my breast. So I was grateful for that. And after the surgery, of course, they test the lump, and that's when they found out that I test positive for the HER2 protein. And so my surgeon told me that he felt like I wouldn't have to have, I would only have to have radiation treatment. But then when they found out that I had the HER2, he was talking I may have to have chemo.
Well, because there's a couple of things that happen. One, a lot of times when people are diagnosed and you talk to others, because you collect information, right? You start looking online, you start talking to people who know about it, and you're just doing your best to try to gather as much information and as much guidance as possible. So one of the things that I remember was always trying to figure out, well, what stage is it? And that was something that was really hard for us to get information about. We never would get an answer of what stage is this, and that's what people ask you a lot about. But once you had yours removed, we found out that really it was just 5 millimeters in size. So it was like the size of a pea. It was very, very, very small. So you had really early detection. Very early. It was like the smallest that they find that. We'll talk a little bit about early detection in a minute. But even though it had the very small size, you did test positive for that gene, which meant your treatment was going to be a little different. You decided to have a lumpectomy, which they call a partial mastectomy. So you didn't lose both breasts. They took out the parts.
Just took out the lump.
Yeah. And so then what happened, of course there are a series of doctors that you have to see. You went to see an oncologist and at some
medical oncologist and radiation oncologist.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so at some point your course of treatment was determined to be radiation only.
Yeah. The medical oncologist, he was the one that made the decision whether I was going to have chemo or, which, was kind of a shock because through the whole process, they felt like I would only have to have the radiation. But because of the HER2, that became a question. But the medical oncologist felt like since it was caught so early and it was so small, he didn't feel it was necessary to put me through chemo. So what I do is I have to take 1 pill a day for the next 5 years, which I'm fine with that. I don't mind taking 1 pill a day because I didn't want to have chemo. I have to work, and I was afraid that if I had to have chemo, I wouldn't be able to work. I'd be sick, and so I was really very grateful that I didn't have to do that. But I did have to have radiation. I had to do 5 weeks of radiation. So I went Monday through Friday every day for 5 weeks. And had a radiation treatment. And a lot of times I think about, since my lump was so tiny, having to go through radiation seemed like a lot. You would think with it being so little that I wouldn't have had to do that, but that's something I had to do.
Yeah.
And so, I did it. And it wasn't always easy, but I had a great medical team. And so they got me through it.
And it's the whole process is so scary because of the things that we have heard. But there seems to have been so much research done and such a better prognosis for a lot of people. And one of the very fortunate things is early detection. Early detection. When you find out early. Not putting off that mammogram, that yearly mammogram. Especially, for instance, for me, which is something that I most definitely put off. It's more important for me to be tested because you did test positive for the HER2. Another thing is, what would you like to say about early detection and prevention?
Well, I would just like to tell women that we have to take care of ourselves. And even though we might not want to go get a mammogram, it's not the most comfortable thing to do. It's very important that we do it, and it's important that we, that we find it early, because I met women who had to go through a whole lot more than I went through. Some women lost their breasts. Some women had to have radiation and chemo, and and I was blessed that mine was found early, and I didn't have to go through all that. And so, I just say to everyone, if you haven't had one, make sure you get it. If you do get mammograms, make sure you keep it up and do it yearly. And to you, since I have had breast cancer and I have the HER2, it's very important that you get it. It wasn't in our family. My mother didn't have breast cancer. My grandmother didn't have it. It's like my sister didn't have it. I had it. So therefore, we have someone in the family that does have it. And it's very important that you make sure you get your yearly mammogram.
One thing that I know through this process that you've gone through is that people have more options, I think, than they realize once diagnosed. Can you share some of the programs that you know of that may be options for people? Or, like for instance, just the support system that's out there. You had a patient advocate. There, the support systems that are out there for people.
Yeah, they really do have a lot. I mean, time I was diagnosed, I was getting called from, they have this program where they have breast cancer survivors who call someone who's just been diagnosed. I mean, they'll come out to see you. They'll take you to doctor's visits. I mean, it's just a group of ladies, and but they are out there. So yeah.
So this past Friday night, you had an opportunity to participate in the University of Alabama's gymnastics fundraiser, Power of Pink. How did you get invited to participate in that?
Well, you have to have someone submit your name, and one of my clients turned my name in, and I got a call right before Christmas letting me know that they were going to have the Power of Pink meet and that I would be one of the ladies honored. It was like 17 of us, and what happens is you get to be escorted on the court with the gymnasts, and they give you flowers. These are my flowers, and they say your name and how long you've been a breast cancer survivor. And the Power of Pink, they've been doing that for years. It's really a fundraiser, and the money goes toward paying for women to get a free mammogram. So it's an amazing thing that they do, so that this can be done, so that women don't have to worry about not being able to get a mammogram and take care of themselves.
And right now, I know that things like that are definitely a concern. As far as and I hate to go into healthcare and things like that, but I know any opportunity that a person has to have be able to have some of their healthcare needs met is always welcome. So anyway, before we end, what I would like to ask you to do is share with us, as far as a person that is going through, your journey, that's dealing with any kind of illness, what do people need to know, specifically caregivers, support systems? What are the things that maybe a person needs most that's going through something like this, from their family or their friends? Or I know you knew at the time there were a number of you that had been diagnosed, people in your circle that were diagnosed with various types of cancers, and you guys were not necessarily, you didn't meet through this, but they were people that you knew, and you know, you guys were constantly finding out, okay, now this person has it, now this person has it, and you were able to talk each other through it. But what would a caregiver or a friend or support system, what do they need to know to help you?
They just really have to try to be very understanding, very loving, supportive, you know, just be there for them, help them in any way you possibly can. You know, like for us at home, I used to do most of the cooking, but when I was diagnosed, I'm like, I have to go to work, then I have to go to radiation treatment. So I was like, Yolanda, you're gonna have to cook. I just kind of didn't cook that much during that time, you know, and so just be very supportive and helpful and loving to them, and sometimes even a hug. A hug would mean a lot, because there were times when I didn't even realize I needed a hug, and I would get a hug and I'd be like, oh, I really need it. And I would get a hug and I'd be like, oh, I really needed that. You know, and it really made me feel good. When I was told I had breast cancer, things I thought about was my mom. I thought about, I want my mommy, because my mom, no matter what was going on with me, she would always try to make it better. Even when I was 50 years old, she would still treat me like her little girl. And of course I didn't like it. I didn't want her treating me like a kid. But when I had breast cancer, I longed for her to be here and just, you know, to let me be her little girl and to make things better, because that's how she would always try to do that. So I really missed my mom, and I also missed my sister, who passed away a couple of years ago, because I was saying, you know, when I was told I had it, well, Barbara's not here. If she was here, she would be rubbing blessing oil on me, and we would be praying. She would be really praying. We'd have prayer service, because that's, you know, that's how she was. So just to the caregivers, just love them and be there for them, and just try to help them through this difficult time.
Well, I want to thank you for sharing your story, and I'm so happy that you've completed that phase of your journey.
Well, thank you, and I really appreciate you having me here on your show. Congratulations on your show. And also, I would like to say, I would love to come back sometimes, but I'd like to come back and talk about something different.
Yeah, we'll have you come back and be on the panel, and we'll talk about fun things.
We can talk about football.
Oh, wow, yeah. Okay, sure. Football season, you're a regular guest.
Okay.
Thanks for watching this week's Table Talk Tuesday. If you have a personal journey story or making a difference in the community, would like to join us on our panel, or have a special talent that you'd like to share, check me out on Facebook, Table Talk Tuesday. Leave a message for me in the inbox denoting which topic you'd like to participate in. Again, thanks for watching. See you next week.